taking Jimmy Kimmel Live off of the air. Protesters supporting Kimmel have been gathering outside his Hollywood studio. The suspension of the show followed pressure from the Trump administration and TV station ownership groups that broadcast the show. This all started Monday night after Kimmel delivered a monologue which included a part about the alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk and the Republican response to the tragedy. The president has been a longtime critic of Kimmel, who has made many jokes about Mr. Trump on his show. Last night, Kimmel's fellow late-night hosts spoke up on their shows in defense of him. After applauding ABC's decision, President Trump suggested the FCC should maybe revoke federal licenses for broadcast networks, arguing that networks, quote, give me only bad publicity, and, quote, all they do is hit Trump. Let's start this hour with NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris and NBC News correspondent Chloe Malas. Chloe, reaction just continues to pour in on this story. Now we're hearing from a Trump ally, a Republican senator, and a former Disney CEO.
Exactly. I mean, you're seeing support on both sides of the aisle here, but you're also seeing others say that this was a great decision by ABC and really supportive of President Trump. So there really is a polarization right now in the country, and I'm really seeing that play out on social media especially. But I want to talk about what Ted Cruz had to say on a podcast. We can pull up a full screen. He said, I think it's unbelievably dangerous for government to put itself in the position of saying we're going to decide what speech we like and what we don't, and we're going to threaten to take you off the air if we don't like what you're saying. Now, let's also take a look at what Michael Eisner had to say. He's the former CEO of Disney, writing on X, where has all of the leadership gone? The suspending indefinitely of Jimmy Kimmel immediately after the chairman of the FCC's aggressive yet hollow threatening of the Disney company is yet another example of out-of-control intimidation. Here's the thing, right? Disney, ABC, they didn't have to take Kimmel off the air, but they are a privately owned company. There's a lot of discussion right now about this decision affecting our First Amendment rights and freedom of speech, but really ABC, they're not really beholden to that. They can do whatever they want to do, and having Kimmel off the air, that's within their rights.
Yeah, I see Misty nodding along. Legally speaking, that is true. Can we also talk, Misty, about what President Trump said about potentially yanking, the licenses of other broadcast networks? What is the federal government legally allowed to do?
So the FCC is a regulatory agency that issues licenses to local networks and affiliates to operate and provide content. Now, there's a standard in the law, and it's very broad. It's called the public interest standard, and that's what the FCC uses to analyze whether or not a station is going to get that license. It has been dormant. It is very rare for a station to be revoked that license, and the public interest standard has always been providing information about everything. So the statement by President Trump would provide a significant First Amendment challenge, because he's essentially saying if you say something bad about me, then you shouldn't have a license. So that could go under what's called the coercive power of the government and be a significant First Amendment challenge if he were to in fact take that action.
And Chloe, let me go back to you. What do we know about Jimmy Kimmel's future, whether they're meeting with him, like what's happening with his show?
There were some photographs yesterday of Jimmy Kimmel going to meet allegedly at his lawyer's office, and there have been reports that Disney wants him to go back on the air. But when you look at what Sinclair, that owns several ABC affiliate stations, had to say, they basically said, we don't care what ABC Disney decides. We are not going to air him in our local markets unless he issues a public apology to Charlie Kirk's family and makes a significant donation to Charlie Kirk's organization. And also the big question is, this is a major moment, not just in late night history, but in American broadcast history. So does Kimmel really want to go back and acquiesce and sort of lower the temperature, or does he want to ride this out? Because he's like the poster child now of speaking his mind and being an adversary of President Trump.
Yeah. We were thinking earlier about the history here. Were there other times when administrations have tried to go the way President Trump has said, go after licenses of networks? We found Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Let's go all the way back to Nixon. So Nixon did not like the way that the Washington Post was covering Watergate. The Washington Post owned some television networks. And so when the Watergate tapes were revealed behind the scenes, it turned out that Nixon was sending surrogates to challenge the renewal of those licenses for those stations. Now, ultimately, those stations, the licenses were renewed. The law has changed a lot since then, so it's a bit more difficult to revoke those licenses or to not renew them now, but it was a lot of legal expense, stock dropping. I mean, a lot went into challenging the FCC, and it had a chilling effect on the media in general at the time. That was all behind the scenes, Kate. Now we're seeing it a bit more in the forefront.
Publicly. All right.